Hey y'all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at the Chromecast HD with Google TV. This is a media streamer that can transform any regular TV into a smart TV using the Google TV interface, which is technically running on Android. Of course, it adds Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, allows you to access apps like YouTube, Netflix, Disney, Hulu, so on and so forth. You can obviously download even more content that you see fit, and like any other Chromecast, you're able to wirelessly mirror the display from any Chrome browser tab on a computer or from your smartphone over to the TV. So the idea of a Chromecast, of course, has been around for a number of years now. In fact, I've been using one of the original generation models for a couple of years, and it's been working quite well, but the functionality is much more limited. It can only mirror the display, and now this device adds the additional app compatibility plus a remote. And the price point is also ridiculously low. The MRSP is just $30 a pop, one of the cheapest out there, comparable with the Amazon Fire TV sticks. There's also a 4K version, which looks identical, except it can stream and also mirror in 4K Ultra HD, as opposed to 1080p on this HD version. Also be on the lookout for promotions that can run. For instance, this thing was selling at just $20 a few days ago to make it even more competitive. That remote also has a voice control capability, so you are able to use the Google Assistant to ask questions, control home automation devices. It does support HDR10 content as well, and otherwise, it's technically using an ARM Logic quad-core processor, more than sufficient for just streaming, and has 2 gigabytes of RAM coupled with 8 gigs of built-in storage on this 1080p HD model. It also supports Dolby Atmos and Dolby Digital as well for improved audio performance, and technically, again, that hardware spec is very comparable to what Amazon uses on their latest generation Fire TV sticks. It's wrapped in this kind of fabric feeling pouch. This one here also looking very clean. We'll take a closer look at in a moment. And then finally down below here we have just a quick start guide. Further down below here we have access to a USB Type-C to full-size Type-A cable that's meant for power on the Chromecast, since of course it doesn't have a built-in battery. A pretty high quality cable, I have to say. And then we do have a AC power adapter included as well. So it is quite ironic that on our premium flagship smartphones that can cost $1,000, you don't get access to any of these accessories, but on this little $20 Chromecast, you do get all of these bundled in. Cable even comes with a plastic clip that is reusable for making it tangle resistant when you're actually traveling or on the go. Finally, down below here, we do have the aforementioned 2 AAA batteries. I like that even those included cells have a white finish that matches that color tone of the entire design, which is extremely clean. So let's take a closer look here at the design of the Chromecast with Google TV. As you can see there, it is very streamlined. We have just that Type-C port now for power. And then of course we have that attached HDMI connector. By the way, here's how it stacks up against that first generation Google Chromecast. So it is a little bit larger, but not by too much. This thing will still be almost invisible once you pop it onto the back of your TV or monitor. And then next to the Fire TV stick, you can tell that the overall dimensions are also not too far off. Finally, in terms of that voice remote, we do have access to a pretty conventional D-pad that feels relatively tactile and responsive. Like most remotes though, it's not going to be backlit, so seeing in the dark can be a little bit more challenging. We have that voice command key, a back key, standard home, as well as volume mute switch, and 2 shortcuts taking you to YouTube and Netflix, as well as even a control for turning on and off the Chromecast and switching between input sources once you have it plugged into your TV. And then we do have a dedicated volume control on the side there, as well as an infrared port there at the very top for communicating with the Chromecast. Aside from IR for navigation, it does use Bluetooth when you're using the voice remote function. So it's a dual connection remote using both that infrared and also Bluetooth. Overall UI navigation is also not bad. It still seems responsive enough, especially on hardware which is so inexpensive. And overall, it's still quite intuitive. Another carousel here will show all the applications installed on the system, including the Netflix, YouTube, Prime Video, Disney, Hulu applications, even Apple TV is on here as well. So pretty much all the strong service providers you can find, and if you have a subscription, sign in and you're ready to go. Otherwise, down below here, you're able to further search for additional movies, TV shows that you can purchase or rent. And this is a pretty long scrolling page where if you go down again, it will show some additional content based on the month that you're in, including world cinema, such as movies, whether in Korea or China, you're able to locate on here quite easily because of the very intelligent Google software, which integrates, again, everything that you're accessing on your account. You saw just some occasional moments of drop frames, but it doesn't really get in the way of you interacting with the system and still feels good enough, even though this is now a very long page of content that we're getting into. Kind of free movies are at the very end of that list. It shows you the Rotten Tomatoes score on the bottom as well. Next tab over is live, content that's on the air right now. So some of that will be free, some of it will be paid, but there are different stations that you can check out built in. There's Google TV, 77 channels, and then of course you can pay for others as well as an alternative to something like cable, as long as you have a reliable enough internet connection. And also shows you the programming that's currently on air, categorized by different genres. And again, all of this stuff you can also search by voice using the voice remote, so that's also intuitive as well if you don't see something immediately in the discovery method. Next tab over will show applications, so this is where you can also install services like Tubi, Pluto TV, as well as see if there's any updates there, search for additional content, and since it is pretty much running on a version of Android, you can also install other APKs, including some basic games and other apps as well, but just keep in mind that the experience on a TV screen that you're interacting with a remote, plus a not super powerful hardware at the end of the day. Ideally, you would keep things light, something like Snake maybe, if you're interacting with the D-pad of the remote might be alright, but anything more graphically demanding may not be the best choice unless you are streaming, for example, using Amazon's Luna or Microsoft's xCloud, and that will just provide you with a larger screen experience. But nonetheless, you do have the versatility of additional apps that you can install, including TED Talk, as well as a lot of other content. And that is the beauty of a Google enabled product, is the App Store is going to be huge. The final selection there is a library, so if you have purchased any movies or watched them back, it will also show you that in those final section. You can even tap to sign into a secondary account and switch back and forth between them if you are sharing it across different family members and they want to see personalized content of their own. Then finally, on the right-hand side, you'll be able to access a kind of search box where you can have universal search over additional content. And in addition to that, you can even search for music as well as leverage standard Google Assistant functions like controlling your appliances, your lights. What's the weather in Seattle? So speaking directly into the remote by pressing that key, you can tell that it is pretty fast. It's also an area where Google TV has an advantage because Google Assistant is one of the best voice assistants, that is compared to Alexa and then Roku not really having one that is quite as intelligent. Final tap there over also allows you to turn on, again, some of those wireless controls, connect to other Bluetooth accessories, and even go into a screensaver mode as well. The weather information will also be located there at the bottom, which is again, pretty neat. A final peek here at more advanced settings, you can also further adjust properties like HDR, whether that's turned on for content that is recognized, as well as check if there's any firmware updates that get pushed over. And software support on Chromecast is usually excellent. Irony here being that it usually gets longer term support than smartphones or computers, which are more expensive. The first gen Chromecast, for example, got over a decade of software updates. For instance, right now we are on Android TV version 12, or really Android 12, but whenever 13 is available, we'll be getting that over the air. Again, since the max res that this one gets to is full HD, it's also a little bit more lighter on the computing aspect of the unit. We can also scrub ahead to different parts of the video, play it back, and you can tell how it's quite fast and responsive there too, so you're not waiting too long at all. The UI remains quite well optimized for, again, a TV experience using this remote. And on Android smartphones, via the Google Home app, you're able to quickly check out smart home products that you have connected. So we can tap on this dining room TV, for instance, and also tweak levels like the volume using our phone as a remote, plus be able to cast the screen of your smartphone over as well. And there we go. Now we have wirelessly mirrored our screen over to a larger display. Latency and overall level of performance is a little stronger than, for example, the first gen Chromecast, which also had about half the RAM built on in. So as a result, It still will be a little bit slower, of course, compared to a wired connection, but it's just so much more convenient, working well for videos as well as other apps and even games. You want to have a larger screen for showing or demoing. And speaking of gaming, again, this is what it would look like, just popping it onto a larger panel in general, which just feels a little bit more immersive, even though, again, frame rates are still not going to be quite as fast as wired, but also not bad at all. Last but not least, in the Google Home app, you can even have a larger virtual remote brought up as long as you're not mirroring the screen of your phone or tablet at the same time. So you can also pull up triggers like a mute switch, a home button, a Google Assistant key, pretty much providing an alternative to the included remote. And I guess one benefit here is your phone's display, of course, is backlit, so it's also easier to see in the dark. And then, of course, on any computer which is using the Chrome browser, whether it's on Windows, Chromebooks, or Macs, you can tap on additional settings and then cast to leverage Chromecast, finding this device, and it will mirror the screen over that way as well. So you have a much larger display for things like presentations. So that is more or less it as far as our quick review of this new Google Chromecast HD with Google TV. And again, for the super low price, I think it is going to be one of the best smart TV streamers. It has all the same capabilities when it comes to wireless screencasting that work as well as ever, plus the addition of that voice smart assistant remote. And if you're already using Google products, the integration plus the easy-to-use UI and the wide selection of content, I think makes this one of the best choices for a smart TV interface compared to, say, Fire TV, which makes more sense if you are an Amazon Prime member. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the HD Chromecast with Google TV.